Doing a roll call? Wait, no, I'm sorry. I skipped Pledge of Allegiance. Sorry. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Commissioner LaRose, would you be so kind to do a roll call?
Sure. Reardon.
Present.
Layton.
Present.
Garland. Andres.
Here.
LaRose, here. Walsh.
Here.
Stasinski.
Okay. And then moving down to agenda, if you guys have any conflicts of interest, now would be the time to disclose that. Otherwise, I would take a motion and a second to approve the agenda.
I make a motion to approve the agenda as printed Monday, November 21st at 6 PM.
Support.
All right, motion by Layden, support by LaRose.
Nope, that's not my name. You said motion by Layton. You didn't say Layton.
Corey Layton? What?
What did you say?
I said motion by Layton.
That's not what I heard, I'm sorry.
Sorry. Well, I think I've mispronounced your name a few times before too, so I apologize. But anyway, motion by Layden, second by LaRose. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. This is the part of the meeting where we open up to the public comment. Would you like to speak? Okay. Otherwise, we'll move to item 6, the approval of the minutes, October 17th, 2022. If you don't mind taking a peek at those, and if you have any corrections, please let us know. Otherwise, I will entertain the motion in a second to approve the minutes.
Motion to approve the minutes as stated for October 17th.
Second.
All right, motion by LaRose, second by Andres. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Now, correspondence. Sure. I'm trying to remember, were we going to try to sneak Elise in under the correspondence, or was that for,
No, she was going to be under the
oh,
garden
I'm sorry.
reports.
Sorry. A little further down.
Yeah. Correspondence, I don't think we received anything recently, but you want to cover some of the old
Yeah.
correspondence.
So, a few months ago, we received an email from a gentleman inquiring about access through the Tibbetts Lake property. Beth had the assessor go through and find some information out on that, and it looks like there's no restrictions per se, but we probably should add it to the master plan and talk about access through there as it's public property, and if it's not used as park land, it goes back to the state. So, little update on that. Also sent an email out a week or two ago about books. I inquired about a couple books for township meetings and whatnot. One of them was Robert's Rules of Order, and then Sue said Michigan Township Associations has 2 books, the Township Board Meetings and then Authorities and Responsibilities. She just wanted to know who may already have them and would be interested in them. No, Garrison probably doesn't have them, so he would need all 3. I don't have them, but you guys.
I don't think I need any of those books. I'm not sure if Stephanie,
Stephanie probably doesn't.
Yeah.
Unless her and I were on at the same time.
yeah, so I at the very least, I would, request some books on her behalf.
Okay.
Garrison,
I just need the authority one.
The authority one?
Mhm.
Okay.
Were there 3 of them?
Yeah, There's the authorities and responsibilities, the township board meetings, and then the Roberts Rule of Order,
I
which,
guess in the township board meetings, I have the Robert rules.
okay,
Thank you.
yep. Then, are you all set on those, Corey?
Yeah.
Thank you. That's all for the correspondence.
All right.
Thanks for doing that.
Yep.
All right, moving along here down to reports, the treasurer report. I know Commissioner Layden's been analyzing it very carefully, and
Yeah, your treasurer hasn't been here in 4 meetings and feels very disconnected. But speaking prior to the meeting, no red flags, no major spending. We're still waiting to hear from Beth on the overspending on the attorney fees. However, I have faith that there's a reasonable explanation and it will remedy itself.
okay.
And that was, you guys had asked last month about that, and I forgot to ask Beth about it, so that's not on Beth's fault, that's my fault for not asking about it. I do believe it has to do with some engineering design for Arbutus 5, based on past reports. That has quite a bit of, there's about $16,000 that's just for that project alone from this year.
Okay. Well, to be continued on that. Moving down to item B, we have a subcommittee report, and I imagine Commissioner LaRose would like to give an update, and then we also have Elise Krapp here with us today. You were planning to speak to us as well, correct? Okay. Okay. Must be waiting for the second round of public comment.
Well, we did meet last week, and the engineers, we have narrowed, we took the 2 plans and discussed those 2 plans. So, and then Elise can give more detail on what was covered and what we have yet to do yet, and get your feedback too on what you might have for those 2 plans. I did get from the engineer the synopsis of the changes that we did, but Elise could probably explain it a little bit better than myself.
Does everyone have, do you have small versions of those? Okay, good. So I think that's helpful to look at up close, but you also could stand up and walk over here if you wanted to see this in larger detail. This is informal, so feel free to walk over, especially if we talk about an element that you want more detail on. So just to recap how we got here, I know that some of you have been, with this project since its inception and through further iterations further back, but Garrison, right, this is probably your first meeting with this topic? It is. Okay, so this garden has been conceived of a few times, but lacked kind of the community support behind the design. And it's not even that there wasn't community support, but we didn't know that for sure. We didn't have a survey we could point to or, interviews we could say, yes, there's definitely interest in the East Bay Township community to support this and therefore the funds to build it. So the township brought me in to help Susan and the crew on the garden team, which is composed of members of your group, Susan and Corey, when Corey can attend, and representatives from the local schools, Cherry Knoll and, Grand Traverse Academy, and then the library. Am I missing?
And SEED and MSU Extension Services.
So it's a really well-rounded group of folks who garden for a living, and then folks who are really interested in using the space as more of an educational and community building space in East Bay Township. So this group started meeting a year ago, and then in the last spring, we kicked off our community engagement. So we did an online survey of the community and then one-on-one interviews with various educators to find out, would you use this? What would you use it for? What are you hoping is involved in the garden? What do you want it to look like? How should it be designed? And then Beth and her team also spoke with township staff to ask them those same questions, like what are you excited about? What are you worried about? And so the resulting preliminary designs we looked at for the first time last week. And Beckett and Rader encouraged us not to think about these as, option A versus option B, but to look at the elements in both and identify what do you like and what do you have questions about or what do you dislike, so that we could begin to pull out those elements that should move into the final preferred design. So that's, how we got here. And then I'll just offer, I wish I were as informed on design work as Tim Knutson is, our landscape architect. But he offered that each concept protects the township view shed. So currently, staff enjoys this natural wooded view, and each garden, A and B, is situated north, so that the built elements don't disrupt that. So
Is that for their view, or is that for future building?
that's for view. So that was important to folks who are here now, that we want this to happen, but we also want to see this view that we like and are used to, and we don't want to see like the fence and the tool shed and, those pieces. We'd like those to be not disruptive. So both sites are situated so that there's that natural view shed protection.
Which is that first, the furthest northern AC unit. So it's the furthest northern AC unit that way. So from that point north.
Yeah, so concept one pushes everything north of that. And then concept two, there's a little bit of development, quote unquote, south of that, but it's the naturalized portion of the garden space, so it's not a disruptive look. And again, we're not looking for, well, I love concept one and hate concept two, or I love concept two and hate concept one, but what are the elements of each that speak to you that you think, yeah, that'd be cool, and maybe we could mix them up, and this is what's important to us. Each concept also incorporates gathering and learning space with gardening space. So that was important based on our interviews with educators. The schools told us that we'd love to bring our kids down for a class. We'd love to, host a writing workshop in the garden. Maybe we could help maintain a shared space, but we don't want to rent a plot ourselves. Like, we'd like to be able to access the garden and use it without having a space that says Cherry Knoll, elementary. So we wanted to make sure that there was educational space incorporated within. And then each concept includes fencing for security and safety. That was also really important to teachers, as you could imagine, with young kids, that once they got here, they wanted to be able to close that gate and know that their kids were safe. And it's also helpful for pest control, right? When folks are growing things, and just makes sense to keep the portions that are garden safe and secure. So you'll see a list in your packet then of what the team offered when they reviewed the concepts for the first time, and you'll see the list of what they liked on the left, and then ideas they had. And maybe these ideas were implied in the design, or, but they just wanted to make sure, if we're doing fencing, make sure it's the kind of fencing that you can see in and out of. Make sure the furniture can move. Make sure there's room to turn equipment around at the compost station, et cetera. So I just wanted to give you a chance to take a look at that list, take a look at the concepts, and then this is a chance to, get your feedback. Is this tracking with what you hope to see in the garden? Are there pieces that you really want to put a pin on? Like, I really hope this makes it into the final design, or I really don't like this element. Why is it important? And we're excited to talk to you tonight because the next step is to meet on December 1st to review a final concept. So we'll take whatever feedback you offer tonight to our design team, and then they can incorporate that for you. So anything?
What was the consideration, or what did you use to determine how many rental plots would be available?
Well, what you see, we'll just do the A, which is more the square design, and then B. In actuality, what's her name, Sophia? Yeah, she was also with Tim on the presentation, and she said between the two, although the drawing doesn't really show with these plots, that we need more detail on the amount of plots, but she said it was only a difference of, I think she said 400 square feet. It's just how it was drawing up here. So she left that night going to incorporate more beds within the open areas, and the Plan B. But we were kind of surprised too, that it was only a difference of 400 square feet. But, so she's going to use some space there, she's going to take that like keyhole shrubbery area, that can all be rented space for maybe perennials or whatever in through there. So she's going to come back with more plots in there for rental.
And we really didn't focus too much on the number of plots that were available, so a lot of those plots are large and could be broken up further, right? So someone might want to take that whole plot, but some could be split among family members or among strangers. And they had the same data that we had from our survey. So in the survey, 99 of the participants indicated they would be interested in a plot. 57 said a private plot, and 42 a shared. And that was just helpful data to inform the design. I don't think anyone's counting on those exact numbers, right? Like, okay, 99 folks, we built it, where are you, right? Like, but it's just helpful to have an idea of the demand that could exist. So what we did talk about, and what the team felt was really important, was the plots will be mixed so that the heights are different, which means that people of different abilities can garden together. So the current iteration, which you really can't tell from the designs, which is nice how open it is, but the Beckett and Rader team had sort of envisioned having a space for wheel under plots where you could wheel a chair underneath a table bed, essentially. And we were very excited about that, but we wanted to see that mixed in with the other beds, so raised beds, ground beds, so that folks were together and not sort of,
Isolated.
you're gardening over here and you're gardening over here. So we talked about the importance of mixing up the different abilities in this space. Good question. Any other questions?
No, I see off to the right, the individual pictures. Are that just for reference of ideas that we could incorporate?
Right.
Okay.
Yep. And the team, generally, this is, I'll kind of share what the team said, and then this is your chance to say, yeah, okay, that sounds okay, or, oh my gosh, we can't possibly do that. So the team sort of gravitated towards a more natural appearance, looking at maybe like large timbers and stone to anchor the beds, so less of the corrugated metal or
Treated
like
lumber.
cement block or brick, but more of a like natural stone and treated lumber look.
And some would be blocks also, so, and there's interesting things you can do when you use blocks with bulbs and things like that. Plus, it also warms the soils in the spring a lot faster. So a mixed use that would tie in with the substrates for the pathways and such.
Yeah, and generally, I mean, folks were excited about the idea that you could have a wide enough frame that you could sit on it to garden. So I think, it feels to me, Susan, like the team really prioritized accessibility, right? Like, let's make sure folks of all abilities can be here, and then once you're here, let's make sure it's comfortable and welcoming and a place you want to stick around. And they also pointed out that we liked the mix of spaces to sit and eat lunch and not do any gardening, and then spaces to actively garden. So there could, anyone could find themselves here and enjoy it. So that was, I think the team really enjoyed that aspect and saw that ability in both designs. But I think generally kind of gravitated more towards the curvilinear design in concept.
B, yeah, or two.
Yep.
It was almost unanimous.
Yeah.
On that, it was really kind of different,
But liked elements from concept one, including the covered pergola for the little bit of shade, but still some sun getting through, the seating options, and then liked that the compost and the tool and the topsoil mulch were all together too for practicality. So this is just a chance for us to, if this is tracking with you, and it seems like so far it is, then great. But if you have anything else you'd like to suggest, the designer's working on this right now, so it's the right time to share those ideas.
Well, I like the idea, especially that curved design. I like how that looks a lot. But I was just kind of curious, I mean, how much has been taken into account for, like, is there going to be irrigation points, or is it all going to be irrigated, or? Okay.
Great question. And I heard that there was a hope that everything would be irrigated. Is that true? I think we want to clarify that.
Beth and I agreed on irrigation. We both agreed on that,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
So rather than having a central place with a hose,
Right.
each bed will be watered?
However, the irrigation is going to work. It's going to have irrigation.
Okay, so
I
I
don't
think
know
we
that-
still, I do think we still need to iron out that detail. Is it a couple hoses at either end kind of thing, or is it, I would, that's kind of what I had pictured. But I don't
Yeah, or
know.
the best irrigation anyways is called a drip.
Do you
Drip
know what
anyway,
they do with the
so.
commons?
Pardon?
The commons, do you know what they do?
I think they still haul water by buckets or by hoses.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Because depending on what you're growing, it's going to have different watering needs, and so if we're,
But they could also be in, I don't know irrigation, but I would assume it's all functional to set timers or different zones. And it's more of a
but would we be
drip.
irrigating the whole thing at once, or just creating an opportunity for irrigation per space,
I
per
think,
bed?
I'm not sure, and I think it's a question we want to see on the final
Mm-hmm.
design, yeah. And there'll be a cost associated with that, so,
Right.
So maybe, some other ideas might be like to have little water points down the line, if it's a lot, if it's like the same water pipe that's going through and you just make multiple points, and then, if there were different watering standards for, something, they could, put a timer on it or something from that point, and just use the hose method or, but I'm glad to hear that irrigation is a part of it. I know one of the big things that always comes up is, what's, the future maintenance costs and all that, and it's okay to spend a little money to maintain things. You want to maintain things, and I'm okay with that, and, I don't think that should be a factor in, whether or not this, to what extent this gets designed. I want us to be smart about it, but, I don't want it to, squash any ideas along the way.
I think that was a real good priority for the supervisor, from the supervisor, is irrigation, so that it's not going to look run down or dried out or things like that. So I think that's up to the engineer and
Yeah.
to figure the technical parts of irrigation. I don't know anything about that too much.
we can coordinate that with the team and just get a sense from Beth what she's envisioning, what the maintenance, talk with township maintenance staff, and then the
Yeah.
design team, and we'll just come back so that we can see it on the map where it goes.
Yeah, you could always put together like a projected or anticipated, maintenance costs, or, there's formulas out there you could use if you wanted to go that route. But, something like this, I think, I've seen money spent on other things that didn't make sense, so this would make sense to me, so.
And also, we were very interested in using solar power, for lighting, or, even Beth had sent years ago this to recharge your cell phones through a solar station and that. So anyways, solar is in, the thought process also in the garden.
Once again, an idea like that would make perfect sense, because the time of year everybody's using this is going to be during the summer and fall, spring. It's not winter time, so, you don't have to have year-round power out there. You could winterize it and have it taken care of, because you're going to have to do that with the irrigation anyway. So, ideas like that are good ideas, I feel like, especially with the push to kind of think more that way anyway, so.
Any other suggestions or input,
You
or?
guys, I see fruit trees was on the suggest list. Did that get much of a,
Yeah,
It was a conversation.
yeah, I'd like to know how that went.
That's why you see /shrubs. Yeah, that's a real science. So, but it was mentioned, not that it should be, but there's, feeding trees for birds, that kind of thing. So we can still get maybe berry bushes in through there.
Yeah.
That doesn't take as much maintenance.
Pardon?
that will not take as much maintenance
Oh,
for
berries
fruit trees.
versus fruit trees? Mm-hmm. If you do it right. That's just the thing, who's going to do it, though?
Well, I think our whole intent of the subcommittee is trying to keep the maintenance down. So there are plans and ideas yet, for that. So I feel positive that the maintenance is not going to be an issue, but that's my vision of it.
You might not have staff, on payroll that they could address it, but, there's plenty of contracted services that could, assist with that, and nonprofits out there. So, yeah, I think it's still, and plus, there's Eagle Scout projects. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff that we can tap into, so.
For sure.
And that particular suggestion, I think, came out of either that hedge that surrounds the shed in concept 1, or the trees that are proposed in concept 2. There was just a question of, when we're planting tall elements, can we think about incorporating fruit-producing elements instead of just a privacy shrub? And I think, we can look at this, and probably should look at this in phases when you look at actually implementing the piece. So-
Yeah, that's true.
So you can start with what you have to make the garden successful, test out that maintenance plan, right? And then if you find you have capacity or, budget or time for further kind of special projects, right? Then you could decide, okay, we're going to put in 2 apple trees, right? And see how that, so you don't have to do this all at once, especially with elements like that might require more maintenance. But maybe nice to hold off on planting all your trees until you've figured out what you want to do, kind of thing. I think there's a lot of flexibility here for the township, which is good.
And part of the fencing on this west wall, and that was, all the deer and type animals and that, incorporating that look, but also have beds, plots incorporated in that fencing. So,
You did say it was an enclosed area too, right?
Yeah.
Or- Cool.
So our next step is to finalize this design. So we gave the designer a lot of notes, taking elements from each, and then they'll come back to us with a preferred concept. We'll share what you shared tonight, which was liking the curvilinear design, what's the plan for irrigation. I also added a note, Ryan, based on your comments, that it would be helpful to see maintenance costs and timelines, going out. So even just some rough numbers on, because we're going with this ground cover, right? Like, expect to have to replace that in
Yeah.
10 years for approximately, X cost. If we can get rough numbers like that, I think that would be helpful. And then solar, making a lot of sense. So any other comments like that we want to bring back?
And did we also say that she was trying to put in the open space, put in some more garden beds?
yes.
Okay.
Sophia's working on that.
And then delay tree planting until we have a better picture of what maintenance is going to look like. Because I'd hate to plant some beautiful oaks and maples and then just be like, well, don't plant oak. Well, if we have raised beds, it might be okay.
What if
Yeah,
there's
we
like
were looking
a,
for fruit trees, actually, something edibles and that.
what if there's like you designate a certain area for future, in case there's maybe make an education project or something, because I know a lot goes into it, I've never had to do it before, so. But that way, it kind of delegates the piece of property, so that the hopeful people that want trees will know that it's there, and, yeah, I don't know.
And there is room for expansion maybe someday, further south. Maybe.
Well, hopefully we can put something at Pines and put something at the water tower. Or other places that we're not thinking of.
So something that I noticed that's different between the 2 plans, and I don't know if I like it or don't like it. I'm not on your commission, but just a random comment.
Public comment.
On Plan 2, the fencing is more just around the beds, and then kind of all the gathering spaces outside of the fencing, where Plan 1 has everything inside the fence. So I kind of like having that space outside, so if you do have kids, they might not be running through the garden while you're trying to do something. But then at the same time, I'm wondering if that public area because if you are having kids that are gathering for something, you might need that to be enclosed too. I don't really know, but I kind of like having the two spaces because you can separate if you're having two different things happening or something like that.
Yeah, the team went back and forth on that.
Right.
And identified similar pros and cons, like nice to be able to bring your kids into a fenced area where everything can happen and it's fenced, but also nice for folks who either don't know what the garden is or aren't planning to use it as a garden, who can just walk up and sit down, right, as opposed to like opening a gate to a thing that doesn't feel like yours. So what the team emphasized was, we realized that, well, there is gathering space shown in the fence, like in concept 2, but maybe not enough of it. And so thanks for bringing that up, because I don't think I put it in the notes, that if we went with that half fenced, half open design, which I think the team was gravitating towards, that including more gathering space, sit-down gathering space in the fenced area would be good, so that folks could, and they brought up the same separation of uses you just brought up, Sarah, with kids, like,
Right.
on the one hand, it'd be nice to have a fenced area for kids. On the other hand, it's nice to think that you could bring like a story walk group through
From the library.
and not be in the way of folks who are trying very hard to put their sprouts, I don't garden, so I don't know. Put their sprouts in.
You did good.
What about security? Does the township have cameras all the way around? This-
We did bring that up with cameras and then lighting. And that's where we were thinking solar lighting because, so it's not lit up bright at night. But, so they have thought of some security in there, whether it's motion lights or what. But I don't know
We've got- I
if
mean-
currently we have cameras outside there, I'm not sure.
Are we talking for like the pests that might want to get into the garden or
I
just
think
in
you were
general?
talking-
Humans
More-
that might want to get into, vandalize?
We really didn't spend too much time talking about that. I mean, I think we could. That did not come up. I don't remember that coming up as a big concern. I thought we talked more about keeping deer out than people out.
When we did the walk
Oh.
with Tim, it was brought up about security, and, he said that, again, with some kind of lighting and with gates, that would help deter that. Or cameras, definitely cameras, yeah.
Yeah, it didn't, Jennifer and Nate didn't flag it as a big concern in the gardens
Yeah.
they manage. So I don't think I don't want to speak for other gardens, but it didn't seem to be a huge, like it might be in a more public-facing, like public bathroom, right, next to a beach, or, where a lot of people are gathering.
Yeah, and
Or Grace McDonald, think of that, and all the problems that used to go on there. Now that there's cameras, that sort of, I think, has pretty much stopped. Those
this is
security
kind of an open stop for some of the law enforcement that work in this area to use the
Right.
restrooms, and so that helps.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
We can ask for ideas on, like, if we were to implement security measures, where, what's the best kind of practice for that? We can come back with some info on that.
Well, there might already be cameras back there.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask, are there some in the parking lot already? It's not like this is a foot pedestrian area, so if they were to come here to vandalize, they would provide here probably parking.
Right.
parking.
Yeah.
And I think that's what Tim kind of brought up, was that this didn't feel to him like a place that you might like, oh, I just found myself in the back of the East Bay Township office. It's sort of a place you go to intentionally
Right.
as opposed to a place you find yourself at doing something else. But we can get the answer.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that I wouldn't be too concerned with, but, I could see the reasons
A
why.
motion light might be all you need.
A really good scarecrow.
Oh, my gosh. That's funny.
Well,
We do
thanks,
this-
everyone. We're going to bring back that final design at your next meeting, and that will also include cost estimates. So my guess is those estimates range, right, like between this to this for, depending on materials. So you'll see a total for implementation, and then I would also like to see if we can glean some numbers for maintenance. So that's when the rubber will meet the road, so to speak, where we'll get a sense of what's practical, as well as what we like to look at.
Okay.
So thanks for your feedback. This was really helpful.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Susan or I?
No, I like the design work already, so I'm excited to see the new one.
Appreciate your work.
Wait. Yes, we do have external cameras outside.
Sign, seal, delivered, all right.
So
I had a,
now we have to do
What,
this.
did you get a text?
I had a vision, I had a premonition of cameras that existed outside.
Oh, yeah, I think you just read a text.
Fantastic.
All right, great.
Thanks for coming, Elise.
Thank you.
All right, moving right along here. Down to, staff, did you have any reports?
I have nothing additional than what's on the agenda.
Okay. Moving down to item 9, business before the Parks Commission. We have the potential Spark grant application and then Holiday Woodlands planning proposal.
Sure. So we've been talking about the Spark grants for a couple of months, and after our last meeting, they actually opened the application and had a webinar and all of that. So I said I'd come back and give you more information. So I put in your packet kind of the application and the scoring guide that they're going to be using with a few details. We are, getting near the end. It was a very short window for applications anyways. But a project minimum of $100,000 with a maximum of $1 million. So that kind of puts us into larger projects than we kind of even were discussing at last month's meeting. And we can use some for planning, but you can only use up to 25% of the money you're requesting for specific planning of a project. Because we were kind of thinking, well, I know in talking with the supervisor, we talked about Holiday Woodlands maybe a little bit in planning, but we wouldn't need 100,000, but we wouldn't be able to get that much, in full. So I don't know if there's anything that the commission is thinking of that they might like to go after. There are 3 rounds of this, so this is just the first round. There'll be 2 next year as well. And probably the biggest item is that we will need a township board resolution of support for the application. So that would be something they would need to put on their December agenda to get that resolution, hopefully, in support of it. A couple of projects I was thinking about was still Holiday Woodlands, but I think we'd need to expand it beyond planning and you'd have to do like planning and probably like trailhead parking, kind of go through that where we don't know where the parking specifically is going to be until you went through the whole planning process, but eventually there'd be some construction of some type. Could do that, or I don't know about community garden maybe as well, because the state's saying you define recreation, township. We're not going to tell you what recreation is. But there's 2 components in the application. One is how COVID impacted the community, and maybe how that's different than any other community that's applying for this money. Everybody's going to say they were impacted by COVID in some way or form, so what's kind of our unique spin on that? And then there is a big chunk of it that's going towards your demographics and socioeconomic and all of that. So I'm thinking that the township, if you're looking at poverty levels and items like that, it's probably going to have a harder time getting those numbers. So you're kind of going, okay, we may not get all of that, so we need to do really good on other parts of it. So,
I don't know, we might do pretty good with that, with the demographics. I mean, we got, multiple schools in the area that cater to many different abilities, and then you got, the college here, a good elderly population, retirement. You got people coming in here, so it depends how you break down the demographics, I guess, but.
yeah, and the state's not letting us tell them. They're just saying, we're going to use Alice, CDC places, and some other random thing that we're putting together to do your numbers. We're just telling you 19 out of 100 points is going towards this, but they haven't fully told us even how that's working.
Oh,
So,
okay.
and it's kind of, we're going to pull it based on, your township. I don't know if it's going to be If they'll just do like a census block, if they're gonna do, I mean, I know the township probably might only have one census block or is a part of the city. I don't know even
Yeah.
how they're gonna pull that, because the census block doesn't always follow boundaries of the municipality either, so I just don't know those details. But
What did we talk about last month in regards to what we would like to use the Spark grant apply for?
let me pull that up. Give me just a second here.
And by we, I mean you. I did watch, but I didn't take notes when I watched, so.
Were we focused around accessibility and,
That was my question. It's like, why are we not going for, oh, did we get any details on accessibility?
We've not gotten the study back yet.
Oh, okay.
So last month, we talked about, yes, Pine Grove with an accessible playground, planning and upgrades, basketball at Grace McDonald in Pine Grove, maybe some soccer at Grace McDonald, and then there was some discussion about the draining of the pickleball courts and the surfacing of that. Those were the 4 that I wrote down in my notes. I don't know that, I guess the playground at Pine Grove, you probably could get that over that threshold, the $100,000 threshold.
Would that be putting in a new playground? Or making what we have accessible?
I don't know the
Wasn't
details of
putting
what's
in
out
a
there.
new one, it was just upgrading
It
our
was just
existing.
getting rid of
The wood
The
thing
wall,
around,
yeah.
right.
Okay, all
And
right.
I think the courts, updating those courts.
I mean, you could almost,
oh, okay.
Swings.
you could almost put a new playground there, I don't know. But you'd probably want to kind of look at the, you know,
By the
who's
time we-
living there.
Figured that out, the deadline would probably be over.
Yeah, December
Right.
19th.
Right, and there is a fair amount of work, and so I don't know if it's something that we go, this isn't the right time to apply this first round, let's see what comes out of this first round and look at the second round. You know, still talk about it and come up with a plan, but I just don't know what to expect. I guess,
Right.
you know,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
a new
yeah.
grant and it's the first time around. They had a webinar that had a capacity of 1,000 people and they had 1,000 people, you know, so there's a lot of interest in it, and I think it's because you're not required to have as much detail as you do for like a trust fund grant. You don't have to have a full-blown site plan. There's not these specific requirements. It's kind of a, you know.
It seems like the only thing we'd be ready to pull the trigger on is the community gardens. Like, that's the furthest down the pipeline that we could scrape together in a month. When's the deadline? In 3 weeks?
19th, that's like 3 weeks.
Unless there's just a big project to cover, I mean, is there anything with the gazebo that we have to get,
Oh, the warming hut?
warming hut?
The warming hut, that was already applied for trust fund money. I'm not sure if that would still be another option as well,
Yeah, I mean, it's not guaranteed that we get the trust fund money.
right?
Can you do multiples?
And then we'd have all the information for that.
Right.
We got a bid for like, what, 500,000 or whatever?
I think it's 300.
On the warming hut?
Yeah.
We have plans, we're that far ahead? We have plans for the warming hut?
Well, we had,
A concept, I don't know.
Yeah.
We had a concept, we have plans?
You don't need full-blown plans, I mean, but,
That's, yeah.
but we had pictures of concept.
Have we figured out how much more the Arbutus 5 product is going to cost? Because I'm sure it's going to cost more than what we were originally quoted.
yeah, I'd have to ask Beth on that.
Because, I mean, maybe we ask for supplemental money to get that one moving again, because, you know, the biggest thing that we were affected by, you know, we were in the middle of this project, COVID hits, and now, you know, the cost of getting this done is a lot more. So,
Do we know when we're going out for bid on Arbutus?
I don't know the
Was
status
it
of that.
January, February?
Thought it was coming up.
I think so.
This
But-
winter, Beth was gonna,
This, yeah, it's January, February.
So, if we don't have anything, established, and when is the next trustee meeting? Like, is our board going to meet before the next one?
No,
No.
So how are we going to get a resolution in time unless we do a special meeting?
Right, I mean, it would be, you'd need to pick a project tonight, tell me what you'd like, and then, I could have a resolution for the board to consider at their meeting. Essentially, tonight, you need to decide if there's one project that you want me to pursue.
I think the only thing that we actually have the most information on that we've used is probably the Arbutus 5, because we've already done a grant for that, and we know that there's going to be more costs, and it's going to be more there. The community garden's got a good start where we could use information for that. So I guess, between those, I would kind of see what fits the best.
But you're saying we can't apply with the warming hut because we applied for something else?
Well, you can use it for, I'd have to look at I don't know the trust, the Spark Grant program will let you use the Spark Grant money as matching, but I don't know if the other program will allow you to use Spark as matching, or if it has to come from township funds.
but you could check with Beth.
I could check on that. So if you were to rank priorities, if you have Arbutus 5 and the Warming Hut and the community garden, what order would you rank which one do you want me to start with?
If it was, my opinion would be the Arbutus 5, I feel like, because I don't want to come short on that and then not be able to do anything and have that, in limbo.
And why can't we do the woodlands?
I don't think we're far enough along in that
Okay.
project to know exactly
Yeah,
what we
that's-
need
that's
there.
kind of a
Yeah,
major
I
issue.
agree, but it's
We may be able to
unfortunate.
apply for something next, the third round, because I'm imagining that's going to be next fall time.
Next.
So, and if I remember right,
It sounds a long way, but I know better.
like if you don't get funding the first round, they hang on to your application for the second round too,
Right.
correct?
Yeah, you have the option, if you don't get funded the first time, you can submit the same application, revise it, or pull it. But it does stay you have to actively do something, or it continues in the pot to go down.
Okay.
I'd say we
And who-
apply for the Arbutus 5. I mean, you could say COVID impacted that project by halting it for 2+ years, and then
Yeah.
just the cost and demand
Public benefit.
for
Yeah.
materials, labor, all, et cetera.
Okay.
We went into the process expecting one thing, and things have changed, and now to finish it.
But although people were still able to use it. So I'm just throwing that out there
Well,
because,
they're still using it.
because of the grant, you know how they get kind of to the detail, all the Ts and the Is. I'm just throwing that out there.
That
The park
age.
definitely needs some major renovation, because the spring, I mean, there was literally holes before the break while it was sinking into the lake, so.
I think that's a good argument. I mean, you would say COVID, in northern Michigan, we were impacted because people came here, right? And then they had to be outside, so they were using the park, so there's an increased use. But then this also has a unique spin because it was mid-project that is stalled and delayed and now has even more costs than
Yeah.
expected.
And it's met their approval once before, so,
So, okay, so I can look into that a little bit more.
so do you need us to make a motion, or
Yeah.
to send it to the trustees?
Yeah, so, yeah, we would need some sort of I mean, it could even be a recommendation in the form of a motion, or to ask the board to support a resolution to move forward with Spark funding on Arbutus 5.
Perfect.
So
Would someone like to make that
I'm-
motion?
Shoot, I just forgot what you said.
Okay, I'll move to prioritize Arbutus 5 as a project for Spark Grant funding, for the Spark Grant funding application. That cover it?
Sure.
Support that.
And send it to the Board of Trustees for
Did you
a resolution to be approved.
Do we need,
Vote or just,
Yeah,
That's,
Oh,
right.
I imagine we have to vote to send it to the trustees, and
Yep.
then they actually have to have a formalized resolution.
yeah, they would have a formalized resolution. So I think that if you wanted to vote on that, and then if we wanted to make a motion for as a backup project, in case
Yeah,
that project,
that's
for
what I was
whatever
gonna ask.
reason, do
Yeah.
that as a separate motion.
Okay,
Okay.
so moved by Walsh, second by Andres. Discussion? You-
Arbutus number 5 was a $600,000 project, and the minimum is 100,000.
For the Spark?
Yeah.
The minimum is 100,000 to $1 million.
Yeah.
Right. But the minimum is 100,000 on a $600,000 project. Do you think the price would have gone
Oh.
that much up?
Totally.
Okay.
Totally. You know, I mean, there might be unexpected costs now that we didn't even anticipate. So, I mean, who knows?
Well, no, I mean, there's the seawall and the kayak launch and, yeah, labor
Okay.
fees.
Well, all in favor?
Is it a roll call vote?
It's up to you, whatever you want
Just
to do.
do it, just to cover your base.
We'll do a roll call vote.
Okay, Layton,
Yes?
Walsh,
Yes.
Reardon,
Yes.
Andres,
Yes.
LaRose, yes.
Motion passes. Now, you wanted to do a secondary project, you think?
It's up to you if you want to have another one kind of, for whatever reason, if that one's not, after talking with the supervisor, doesn't work out, or,
Okay, so,
I mean, the warming hut would be the second project that we've already started and then has also been halted due to raised cost and would also, in my opinion, be related to COVID,
okay.
demand for building after 2 years.
With the Grace McDonald, I assume.
Yeah.
yeah,
That's just my thoughts.
makes sense to me. It's a gathering spot, too. You know, so is the community garden as well.
I mean, those are just two outstanding projects that have been halted due to,
And I'm trying to, I mean, we had price quotes on it even, too.
yeah.
On the, on,
The warming hut.
100,000.
I thought it was 300, but whatever.
it was
still
different every,
quite high.
every meeting.
It was still double what we originally planned.
Okay,
Yeah.
you like the warming hut?
I'd go with the warming hut. I mean,
Yeah. I think the community garden might be good next year. We'd have better pricing ideas for
Yeah,
the
once
next
we
round.
get in December, when we
Yeah.
meet, we'll have much better, yeah. And there'll be others out there
Hmm.
for the gardens.
Yeah, there's 3 rounds of this, so we can.
Can you add on to, withdraw one and add on to?
You only can do 3 total.
Oh, gotcha, okay.
So if you don't get if you don't get money for the first run, you can decide if you want to continue with that one or withdraw it and apply for something else.
Okay. All right, that sounds good. Do we need a motion for that second one?
I think that'd be good.
all right, so I'll make a motion to make the warming hut at Grace McDonald Park the secondary priority for us to send for a Parks grant application.
Support. Roll call. Walsh,
Yes.
Andres,
Yes.
Reardon,
Yes.
LaRose, yes, and Layton.
Yeah, yes.
And I would only apply for the warming hut if for some reason we didn't move forward with Arbutus, just to make that clear. Okay. For this round.
I don't have a price, I just have the concept plans.
Just remember the price was,
Ungodly.
It was,
yeah. I just remember we were really surprised.
Surprisingly, wow.
Yeah.
because I think the warming hut was priced, and we could almost have done the whole Arbutus 5 for the same price as.
How big a hut we talking about?
Not big,
Well, it seemed like,
not big.
it almost seemed like I don't want to do this, so I'm going to make it
Well,
really
yeah,
expensive.
That's where the demand
Here, these are this is the,
concept.
thank you.
I mean, it was nice, had a fireplace and glass doors, and I mean, and rightfully so, it should be nice.
You know, if you make it a place where people want to gather, I mean, they will use it.
Oh, I would have used the warming hut on Sunday.
You went sledding there too?
No, I thought about taking the kids, and I was like, if the warming hut was there, I'd go. But since there's no warming hut, we just stayed in our own yard.
Well, I went, and I wish there was a warming hut too. So, it was cold. All right, moving along, unless there's anything further with the Spark grant. Okay, so we got our two motions there. So moving down to Holiday Woodlands planning proposal.
Yeah, so this was something I mentioned at last month's meeting, but it wasn't on your agenda and the information wasn't in your packet. So we'd like to move forward with a seeds grant from Rotary for just the planning of Holiday Woodlands. To do that, we needed to get a cost estimate to make sure that we were in the right ballpark for that grant. So reached out to Parallel Solutions, and they provided a scope and a cost estimate for the work to do kind of the community engagement for Holiday Woodlands. And you'll probably recall, we talked about, because we're going to be doing the master plan for all of the parks, kind of starting out together and doing a survey that would be for all the parks, and then kind of splitting Holiday Woodlands out and doing that almost as a separate process, then getting more community engagement, more in-depth planning for that project. So at this time, we would just need, and this is something that also needs board approval to basically support to move forward with the seeds grant, with the understanding that we anticipate the cost to be $15,000. We would request $10,000 from Rotary and provide $5,000 from
Match.
the funds. Yeah, as a
Just
match.
say that again.
10,000 would be the grant we'd request, and 5,000 would be the match from the
Grant would
township.
be, and we need 15,000 for the,
For the
for the
planning.
master plan for the site?
Yeah, for the site master plan.
Okay. And we would do 5,000.
Correct.
Got it.
So, yeah, we would just need a motion to recommend, I guess, that the township board move forward with this grant process, with the 10,000 grant request, 5,000 match.
I'll make a motion to have staff work on requesting is it a grant, you said? A grant from Rotary in the amount of 10,000, and for the Parks Commission to allocate 5,000 as a match for moving the Holiday Woodlands Preserve project forward. Planning. Because there's no project yet. So, sorry, I'm not the greatest motion maker.
That's okay.
All right. If anybody is inclined to support,
I'll support that.
is there any discussion? Anybody have any issues with us applying for a Rotary grant?
Review it to make sure the fee covers everything the park commission would like to include.
All right. We'll probably do a roll call vote on this one, too.
Layton,
Yes.
LaRose, yes. Reardon,
Yes.
Andres,
Yes.
Walsh.
Yes. Motion passes. All right. And our public has left us, so we don't have any public comment. Upcoming meeting dates, December 19th, 2022.
Does anybody have any issues with that date? It's the week before Christmas. If Elise is going to try to get here with, community gardens, I'd like to make sure we have a quorum.
Sure. That should be okay with me.
Okay.
The only thing I can think of is, an emergency.
Oh, yeah.
And we'll have to make our 2023 schedule, so look at your 2023 third Mondays of the month prior to the meeting. What else? And then do we vote in December for chair, or do we just vote in January?
December, we're supposed
County,
to
we
do
do
it in
in,
November, but
What?
we were, I believe, in November, but we should do it in December
Okay.
for the board.
I'll put it on for December.
we've always done ours in January, but that's because all the commission starts in January. We start right away,
Yeah,
so
that's what makes it a little confusing.
if we did December,
I
that
can
would
look
work.
at your rules.
Yeah, you could, that'd be a good idea.
I just don't know if we're be missing a few people. I don't want
Yeah, that's,
to have like,
no,
you know,
because
4
then we'll
people.
just assign them jobs.
Yeah. Well, I guess, we could always push it off to January if there's not enough people, I
That's
guess,
true.
so.
Yep.
All right, with that, would you guys like to make a motion to adjourn, or?
I make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Support.
Motion by Layden, support by LaRose. Any opposed? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, okay. 7 o'clock.
7?
Or is it?
6 to 7? Nice.
Last meeting was quicker.
I think the fastest meeting we ever had was 18 minutes.
Was that me?
No, that was one of my first things, like with the 6.